Is an NBA announcer about to get fired because LeBron James couldn't wait to hear the facts? It's very possible that this is the case. This is an amazing story, so watch this video all the way through. But we got to start with, obviously, the video that prompted all of this. Then we're going to get into what LeBron James has said and what this announcer, what he says to defend himself. It's all pretty incredible, and I want to get your thoughts on this as well. Here's the moment in question.
What a well-designed
This is Porter
play.
Jr. right here.
And you got to give credit. Kevin Porter Jr., like his dad, pulled that trigger right at the right time. Boy, that one stung.
Like his dad pulled that trigger right at the right time. Now, why would people be pissed off about this? You know, people say pull that trigger to make the shot. You're playing basketball. Kevin Porter Jr., like his dad, pulled that trigger right at the right time. I can't believe this was actually said on the Wizards broadcast. Completely inexcusable. And they came out in droves like this. Wizards announcer slammed for inexcusable comment about Kevin Porter Jr.'s father. What's this all about? Well, Kevin Porter Jr.'s father spent 4 years in prison for manslaughter because he killed a 14-year-old girl. Yeah, that's right. This is the other side of this. In August of 1993, just 15 months after Kevin Porter Jr.'s oldest sister, Kiana, was born, Kevin Porter Sr. was charged with the first-degree murder of a 14-year-old girl. The only witness to the incident initially told police that Porter Sr. was in the car with the girl, pointed a gun at her, and told her he was going to shoot her, and then pulled the trigger. So they go on to talk about this, and then how later on in his life, he ended up being shot multiple times at a bar in Seattle and killed. And so when you go back to the Kevin Porter Jr., like his dad, pulled the trigger right at the right time, why would you say that? Should we wait, though? Should we get some context? No! LeBron James calls for NBA announcer to be fired, right? This is how people react to this stuff sometimes. Just right to craziness. And they take the least charitable analysis possible, right? When you hear that somebody said something like that, you don't go, well, let's see what they meant. Let's maybe they had some reason for saying this beyond what it seems. No, you take the least charitable option, which is he's some terrible monster of a man, and he decided to say this about some guy who his dad killed a 14-year-old girl and he died in a bar shooting. That's pretty terrible stuff, right? So LeBron says he should be fired. In fact, he said, oh, he thought this was cool, huh? Nah, we ain't going for this. Sorry, but this ain't gonna fly. How insensitive can you be to say something like this? Beat it, man. I pray for you, but there's no place in our beautiful game for you. Other basketball players jumped on. Nobody wants to wait. And I don't know, maybe ask a question. Like why? Kevin Love, can't allow this S. No place for it. Shouldn't be allowed to call a game at this level again. We protect the players. Like LB said, praying for you. I'm sure they are. I'm sure they sat down and prayed. What about the guy who said it, right? So this is Glenn Consor. He said, I want to sincerely apologize to Kevin Porter Jr. and clarify last night's call. Oh, okay. Well, what was he actually doing? Please allow me to take this opportunity to sincerely apologize to Kevin Porter Jr. and his family and the Rockets organization for the comments I made during last night's game. So he's just putting it out on the table. I'm sorry I screwed up. Seems sincere to me. I mistakenly thought that Kevin was the son of a former Washington player, Kevin Porter, and was unaware that the words I chose to describe his game-winning shot would be in any way hurtful or insensitive. I reached out to Kevin to personally apologize and hope to be able to talk with him soon. This guy seems like a really nice dude. And he's right. There was a Kevin Porter who played basketball for the Washington Bullets. Ooh, that makes it even more brutal, I guess, right? Now they're the Washington Wizards. They used to be the Washington Bullets. I guess we shouldn't say that anymore. Kevin Love actually dialed back and said, healthy discussion to be had here. Context is everything. I know Glenn is well respected within the league. Our blink reaction as players was to protect one of our own. Why don't you not have a blink reaction to just protect one of your own and go out there and slander a guy and say he should be fired? And LeBron James hasn't taken any of this back. Why don't you wait like 5 seconds so you could figure something out? Then his apology wasn't even good enough for people. Well, as somebody who's known him a while, you need to recognize how horrible of a thing it was for him to say. Apologies are only good if people really mean it, this person said. It's your job to know these as things, and you didn't. An apology just won't do. He still needs to be fired, right? We now know it was a gigantic mistake, can happen to anybody, and he apologized profusely. Still need to be fired. Broadcasters need to know the family history of all 450 active NBA players. Good point. If that were true, we'd be watching games in silence, this person with a brain said. Unaware, huh? You're a professional who's been around African-American athletes. Why is this about race now? You had to have known how this would be perceived. Of course you did. The least charitable option is the one that they think motivated all of these people. They do this every time. They believe somebody that lines up with them. A lot of times ideologically, by the way, like a Jussie Smollett type thing. Boom, they believe immediately. They say, believe women. They say, believe it. But they don't even wait to get a statement from a guy who had a perfectly reasonable example of why he said what he said, or he had a perfectly good reason for the screw up. It's not a mistake an announcer is allowed to make. Kevin Porter Jr. is not a rookie. An unknown bench player on a 10-day contract. Also, everybody would be fully aware via media if a player had a child at about 50 that's now in the NBA, and then might be safest just to avoid gun metaphors altogether. Yeah, right? Nobody say pull the trigger. Nobody say shoot, I guess. We'll take that all out of basketball. Everyone is so bad at giving just a little charitability to these people who are in these situations. No, it's go for the scalp immediately. Take a guy who, by all accounts, is a good dude who wandered into a weird verbal area and he had no idea it would be taken this way. Why don't we be a little easier on people, for God's sake? You make it so nobody wants to ever speak into a microphone or talk into a camera because we wonder if we're going to put our foot in our mouth that day. This is just incredible to see. And no back off yet from LeBron James. It's on you now, man. The guy apologized. You should be able to look at what he said and realize, oh, I got it wrong. He wasn't just being an asshole. Let me know what you think. Should this guy be fired? Are these athletes wrong to suggest that somebody should be fired in an instant without even seeing what the real story was? What do you think about how everybody goes to these snap judgments? Let me know in the comments below. If you're new around here, Facebook.com/TheNewsJunkie. Hit that follow button. YouTube.com/TheNewsJunkie. Hit subscribe for videos just like this every single day. Thank you so much for watching. I look forward to your comments. We'll talk to you again real soon.